She was young, radiant, and endlessly alive, a voice like sunshine, a laugh that filled every room. But on a cold December morning in 2009, Brittany Murphy was found collapsed in her Los Angeles home, 32 years old, gone far too soon. The coroner said it was pneumonia, a tragic, sudden illness, case closed. But weeks later, her husband was dead too in the same house, under the same mysterious conditions. The headlines called it coincidence. The world called it Hollywood tragedy. But the people who knew her whispered something else. Before she died, Brittany had told friends she was being watched, that someone was after her. She was paranoid, sleepless, convinced her home was bugged. Her mother claimed there was black mold, others suspected poisoning, and somewhere between the grief and the gossip, the truth was buried. Brittany Murphy wasn't just another fallen star. She was a bright, unfiltered soul who never quite fit the Hollywood mold, too kind for the industry, too fragile for the fame it promised. From Clueless to 8 Mile, she gave everything she had to make people feel something real. But behind the laughter was a woman unraveling under pressure, love, and fear. The tabloids said she died of pneumonia. But what if Brittany Murphy didn't die once, but twice, once as a person and once as a victim of the world that made her? Everyone thought they knew the story. But the truth behind her final days is far darker than Hollywood ever dared to admit. To understand Brittany Murphy's death, you have to understand her world, the glittering, unforgiving Hollywood of the early 2000s. It was an era of red carpets, gossip blogs, and camera flashes that never turned off. For a young actress, one photograph could make or break a career. And Brittany Murphy, with her wide smile and big brown eyes, was impossible to forget. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1977, Brittany Ann Murphy Monjack was raised by her single mother, Sharon. Her father left when she was just 2 years old. Money was tight, but her mother saw something in her, a spark, a natural performer. When Brittany was 13, they packed their lives into a car and drove to Los Angeles, chasing a dream that would soon consume them both. Brittany wasn't the typical Hollywood beauty. She didn't look like the perfect, polished starlets of the time. But what she had was far rarer authenticity. Casting directors loved her energy. She got her first break in the sitcom Clueless 1995, playing the sweet, awkward Ty, and the world fell instantly in love. The funny girl, the underdog, the one you couldn't help but root for. From there, her career skyrocketed. She starred in Girl, Interrupted, 8 Mile, Sin City, and Uptown Girls. She could play fragile, fiery, innocent, or broken, often all at once. Directors said she had an emotional honesty you couldn't teach. But behind her success was a girl who never believed she was enough. Hollywood adored her charm but punished her difference. When she lost weight, they called her sickly. When she didn't, they called her chubby. When she dated powerful men, she was desperate. When she stayed single, she was unstable. She tried to reinvent herself. Darker hair, sharper edges, new roles. But the more she changed, the less the industry seemed to want her. By her late 20s, Brittany's career had cooled. Rumors spread that she was difficult to work with, that she had developed erratic behavior on set. In truth, she was exhausted, burned out by an industry that demanded perfection and then mocked her for chasing it. Then came Simon Monjack, a British screenwriter with a mysterious past. When Brittany married him in 2007, few in Hollywood even knew who he was. But those who did worried. Monjack was charming but secretive, accused of fraud, lawsuits, and unpaid debts. He isolated Brittany from her friends, controlled her career, and convinced her to fire her longtime agent and publicist. Within a year, the once radiant actress seemed like a ghost of herself, thin, anxious, withdrawn. Her mother lived with them in the same house, saying later that Brittany's marriage was both protective and suffocating. She had stopped working, barely leaving the house. Friends tried to visit, but calls went unanswered. When she did appear in public, she looked frail, her voice shaking, insisting, "I'm fine, really." But she wasn't fine. By late 2009, Brittany was paranoid, convinced someone was tracking her. She told friends she believed her house was bugged. Her husband claimed the government was spying on him because of a lawsuit involving a journalist. To outsiders, it sounded absurd. But to those close to her, Brittany's fear was real and growing. And then, that winter morning, it all ended. The star who once brought life to every room collapsed on her bathroom floor, whispering she couldn't breathe. It was the end of a life, but the beginning of a mystery that refuses to rest. At first glance, Brittany Murphy's life looked like a Hollywood success story, the small-town girl who made it big, the actress with no boundaries between laughter and heartbreak. But behind the light was a slow, invisible collapse. After 8 Mile, Brittany's fame reached its peak. She was charming talk show hosts, lighting up premieres, and headlining major films. Yet the same system that built her up was beginning to tear her apart. Hollywood had changed roles for quirky, emotional women were disappearing, replaced by cold, perfect archetypes. Brittany didn't fit the new mold. Producers whispered about her weight, her energy, her instability. And as the offers faded, the gossip grew louder. By 2006, she was struggling to find work. Tabloids accused her of drug use, false claims that hurt her deeply. "I'm not some tragic girl," she said once, forcing a smile. "I just want to act." But that smile was thinning. The more the media mocked her, the more she withdrew into the only world that felt safe: her home, her husband, and her mother. Her husband, Simon Monjack, was a mystery. To friends, he was controlling a man with stories that never quite added up. He told Brittany he'd protect her from Hollywood, from agents who used her and studios that betrayed her. But that protection became isolation. He cut her off from nearly everyone she trusted. Friends described visiting their house as eerie curtains always drawn, phones unplugged, Brittany moving like a ghost through the halls. The couple's paranoia grew together. Monjack claimed the two were being watched. He told reporters that the Department of Homeland Security had targeted him unfairly. Brittany, already fragile, believed him. They moved through life in a shared bubble of fear, sleeping odd hours, avoiding interviews, refusing doctors. By late 2009, Brittany's health was visibly declining. She had lost weight, her eyes hollow, her voice shaky. On December 20th, she collapsed in the bathroom of her Hollywood Hills home. Paramedics arrived to find her unconscious. Despite desperate efforts, she was pronounced dead at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center at 10:04 a.m. The world mourned another young star gone too soon. The coroner's report listed pneumonia, iron deficiency anemia, and multiple drug intoxication from over-the-counter medications, nothing illegal, just a toxic mix of cold medicine and exhaustion. Still, her death didn't sit right with those who knew her. Brittany hadn't been that sick, they said, and the fear that had consumed her in her final months, that she was being followed, watched, silenced, suddenly felt less like paranoia and more like a warning. Then, 5 months later, the unthinkable happened again. Simon Monjack was found dead in the same house, in the same bedroom, of the same reported cause: pneumonia and anemia. 2 people, 1 home, identical deaths. Coincidence or something else? Investigators pointed to possible toxic mold in the house, but environmental tests found nothing conclusive. Brittany's mother, Sharon, who lived there through both deaths, denied any danger. The coroner refused to reopen the case. But whispers began to spread, whispers of poisoning, of surveillance, of something darker than the official reports dared to say. It was as if Brittany's story had been erased before it was finished. In the months after her death, her image was everywhere: clueless star dies young, Hollywood's new Marilyn Monroe. But behind the headlines, her friends were left with questions that no one wanted to answer. How does a healthy 32-year-old woman die of pneumonia in her own home? How does her husband die of the same thing 5 months later? And why did both of them believe to their final days that someone was out to get them? Whatever killed Brittany Murphy, it wasn't just illness. It was something deeper, something that began long before that December morning, in a town that loves its angels until they fall. For years, Brittany Murphy's death was treated as another Hollywood tragedy, the kind that fills a week of headlines and then disappears. But as time passed, too many details refused to stay buried, and the more investigators, journalists, and fans looked, the stranger the story became. First, there was the toxicology report. Officially, the coroner ruled her death accidental, caused by pneumonia and anemia. Yet pathologists quietly questioned how a healthy 32-year-old woman could deteriorate so quickly without medical care. One doctor said, if she had gone to a hospital just 24 hours earlier, she would be alive. So why didn't she? Those close to Brittany said she was terrified of hospitals, convinced someone wanted to harm her. Then came the house, the same house where she and Simon would both die. Friends who visited called it suffocating. Heavy drapes, no sunlight, piles of prescription bottles. After her death, rumors spread of toxic black mold. The coroner never confirmed it, but air quality tests showed dangerously high levels of contamination. Strangely, no one ever ordered a full environmental inspection while Brittany was alive, not even her husband or her mother, who continued living there after both deaths. But the darkest layer came from the people surrounding her. Simon Monjack had reinvented himself as her protector, yet his past was filled with fraud allegations, unpaid debts, and false identities. He had lied about his education, his career, even his age. After Brittany's death, it was discovered that he had 2 secret children and multiple lawsuits. Friends claimed he isolated her from Hollywood, intercepting calls, controlling her money, and keeping her dependent. He wanted to be her everything, one friend said, until there was nothing left of her. And yet, even after his death, the mystery deepened. When investigators returned to the house, they found strange patterns. Missing records, deleted phone data, altered medical files. Brittany's mother, Sharon, lived alone there for months, her relationship with Simon having grown disturbingly close. Some journalists even alleged they shared a bed after Brittany's death. Sharon denied it, calling the rumors evil lies. Then came the most shocking twist of all. In 2013, nearly 4 years after Brittany's death, independent toxicology tests on a strand of her hair revealed elevated levels of heavy metals, including barium, antimony, and manganese, consistent with rat poison. Her father, Angelo Bertolotti, claimed his daughter had been murdered. Brittany was poisoned, he said. She didn't just die. Someone wanted her gone. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office rejected the claim, calling the test unreliable. But the idea stuck. Internet sleuths, journalists, and fans began piecing together theories. Was she silenced because she knew something? Was she paranoid or right? In her final months, Brittany had reportedly told friends she feared government surveillance over a film project involving whistleblower Julia Davis, a former Homeland Security employee, exposing corruption. Davis, a real person, later claimed Brittany and Simon were both targeted for supporting her cause. They were terrified, she said. They thought they were being followed. They told me they were being threatened. Coincidence? Delusion? Or something Hollywood didn't want uncovered? What's undeniable is this. Brittany Murphy's final months were filled with fear, secrecy, and isolation. Whether from illness, paranoia, or something far more sinister, she became a prisoner inside her own life. A bright, kind soul slowly fading in a house full of shadows. Hollywood loves its tragedies neat and poetic. But Brittany's story is jagged, unsettling, a reminder that beneath the glamour, the business of fame is a machine that consumes its own angels. She didn't die on a movie set or in a car crash. She died quietly, unseen, in the same city that once promised her the world. From this channel's perspective, the death of Brittany Murphy is not just a tragedy. It is an indictment of the culture that created her, celebrated her, and then abandoned her. Her story is not about illness, nor even about conspiracy alone. It is about what happens when innocence collides with the machinery of fame. Hollywood is a place that feeds on youth, beauty, and vulnerability. It builds stars out of fragile people, then punishes them for breaking under the weight. Brittany Murphy was not the first, and she will not be the last. Like Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland, and Anna Nicole Smith before her, she was both adored and consumed by an industry that thrives on contradiction. It praises authenticity, but rewards compliance. Brittany didn't fit that mold. She wasn't cynical enough to play the game, nor ruthless enough to protect herself from it. She was emotional, trusting, and endlessly hopeful qualities that made her magnetic on screen but defenseless in real life. When her career began to slip, the same people who had cheered her rise turned away. Casting directors stopped calling. Studios whispered about her being unstable. And in the silence that followed, she reached for anyone who promised loyalty, even if that loyalty was toxic. Her husband, Simon Monjack, became both her comfort and her cage. Whether he was manipulative or merely misguided, one truth remains. He isolated her from the world, and she believed the isolation was safety. That belief may have cost her everything. But the larger question isn't how Brittany Murphy died. It's why she was left alone long enough to die that way. Where were the people who once said she was a treasure? Where was an industry that profits off the image of its angels but looks away when they start to fall? Even the investigation into her death reflects the same pattern: confusion, denial, and the desperate need for Hollywood to move on. The world wanted closure, not truth. Pneumonia and anemia was tidy enough to forget. But the evidence, the fear, the secrets, the timing tells a messier story, one that still doesn't make sense. This channel believes Brittany Murphy's case is more than just a mystery, it's a mirror. It forces us to look at how society treats women who dare to be soft, kind, and open-hearted in a world built to break them. It asks us whether fame protects people or isolates them until the line between paranoia and prophecy disappears. Brittany's laughter once filled entire rooms. By the end, the only sound left was silence. And maybe that silence, not mold, not medication, was the most lethal thing of all. There's a clip, one of Brittany Murphy's last interviews. She's smiling, her voice light, her hands fidgeting nervously. When the reporter asks what she wants people to remember about her, she laughs and says softly, "Just that, I gave everything I had, every single time." And she did. Watch her in Clueless, and you see a girl becoming herself in real time. Watch 8 Mile, and you feel a woman fighting for validation in a world that doesn't want her to win. Even in her lightest roles, there was always something in her eyes, that hint of sadness that comes from someone who feels too deeply. After her death, the house where she lived and died was demolished. In its place stands a new mansion, sterile and bright, the shadows erased. But the air around that address still feels haunted, as if something tender and unfinished lingers there. The echo of laughter, the hum of a life that burned too quickly. Brittany Murphy wasn't just another Hollywood cautionary tale. She was a reminder that even the most radiant souls can vanish quietly while the world keeps spinning. That sometimes the brightest stars don't fade, they're just hidden behind the noise. Her films still play, her voice still sings in animated roles, and her smile still feels alive. Maybe that's her real legacy, not the mystery of her death, but the warmth she left behind. She once said, "I think life is beautiful, even when it hurts." And maybe that's the truth of Brittany Murphy, a woman who believed in beauty, even as it destroyed her. Some stories were never meant to be known. But now,